Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy at Night channel tonight. We drift into the quiet depth of the rainforest, places so rich with life that they feel like entirely separate worlds from our own. These forests are the lungs of our planet, literally breathing clouds into the sky. They glow softly at night, with hidden creatures, and hum with movement and mystery. In every direction, even the air carries secrets that science is still learning how to decipher as you settle and let your mind wander among towering trees that rise into drifting mist, rivers that wind through shadowed valleys, and plants that carry the memory of ages far older than the landscapes. We know rainforests are more than habitats. They are living engines that shape weather, nourish the land, and shelter forms of life that humans may not yet have imagined. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too. One sleepy soul at a time. For now, breathe deeply, let your body soften, let your thoughts grow slow and gentle as we step quietly into the green dusk of the living world. Let's begin. There are leaves in the rainforest large enough to shelter an entire child. Some plants grow leaves so monumental that they seem designed for giants, broad and smooth. They spread out like natural roofs that catch falling rain and sunlight in storms. Water cascade from their wide surfaces in steady streams and gentle whether they create dry havens beneath their shade. These enormous leaves often grow on plants that live close to the forest floor. Because sunlight is precious down there, each leaf expands to capture as much as possible. Animals use them as platforms, nurseries, or shields. Frogs lay eggs in the pools that gather on their surfaces. Insects hide along their ribs. Even small mammals may rest beneath their protection. Despite their size, the leaves remain delicate, adjusting their angle to shed water or reduce wind pressure. Their surfaces often carry patterns that reveal how nutrients travel through the plant. To encounter one is to feel the scale of rainforest growth, where nature shapes objects both massive and intricate with equal care. Some trees only bloom once every few decades in perfect synchrony across vast stretches of forest. Thousands of trees can burst into flower at the same moment. Even though years may have passed since their last display, each individual waits in silent readiness, sensing subtle cues in temperature, rainfall, and light. When the moment arrives, the canopy transforms into a sea of blooms that perfume the air and attract clouds of pollinators. This rare synchrony overwhelms animals that might feed on the flowers or seeds, ensuring that enough survive to sustain future generations. For a brief period, the forest becomes a festival of color that can be seen from above. As a sweeping wave of brightness, animals migrate toward the blooming zones, feeding on nectar that appears only once in a lifetime for some species. Afterward, the petals fall like soft rain, covering the forest floor. The trees then return to patient waiting, counting silent years until the next shared awakening. Rainforest plants communicate through underground fungal networks. Beneath the soil lies a hidden web of threads that connect the roots of countless plants. These fungal strands act as silent messengers, carrying signals from one organism to another. When a plant senses danger, it can release chemical warnings into this network nearby. Plants respond by strengthening their defenses even before the threat reaches them. Nutrients also travel across these pathways. A strong tree may share resources with a struggling seedling, helping it survive until it can gather enough light. This underground communication creates a sense of cooperation that shifts constantly. As the environment changes, every connection is alive, with information weaving plants into a community rather than leaving them to fend for themselves. The network expands as roots grow and contracts. When soil dries, it forms an ever-changing map of life just below the surface, hidden from view, yet essential to the health of the rainforest. There are frogs so small they can sit on a fingernail. In the rainforest undergrowth, tiny amphibians live within spaces that larger creatures never notice. Their bodies are no bigger than the tip of a pinky finger, light enough to rest on a single raindrop-soaked leaf. Without bending it, these miniature frogs slip into pockets of moss where moisture gathers in perfect balance. Each droplet becomes a shelter, a hunting ground, and sometimes even a Nursery, their voices are surprisingly loud for their size, rising from the leaf litter as high-pitched calls that blend with the hum of insects. Because they're so small, they rely on camouflage rather than speed. Their skin patterns mimic the speckles of fallen leaves or the mottled texture of bark. Scientists who study them must move slowly and listen carefully, because spotting one often feels like watching a leaf come alive. Their existence reminds us that rainforests are shaped not only by towering trees, but also by creatures delicate enough to disappear between grains of soil. Some rainforest animals glow in the dark as night settles over the canopy. Lights begin to appear that do not come from the sky. Certain insects shine, with gentle pulses forming drifting constellations beneath the branches. Some fungi emit soft green halos across fallen logs. Even a few mammals produce faint glimmers that shimmer when disturbed. These glows come from chemical reactions within their bodies that release tiny flashes of energy. They can use light to attract mates, warn predators, or communicate with their own kind. In deep darkness, the glow becomes a secret language painted across bark and leaves. Each species creates its own pattern, revealing itself only to those who know how to read the soft radiance. To walk through these forests at night is to feel as though the stars have descended and scattered themselves across the living earth. Bioluminescence remains one of the rainforest's most mesmerizing mysteries, hinting at hidden processes that continue whether humans witness them or not. Some butterflies drink the tears of turtles. Near riverbanks, butterflies gather around turtles resting in the sun. They approach cautiously, fluttering close to the corners of the turtles' eyes. Turtles often excrete small amounts of salty fluid, and butterflies rely on these minerals to help balance their diet. The relationship is harmless and has become a delicate dance between two very different creatures. The gentle weight of the butterflies rarely disturbs the turtles, who continue to bask while their visitors sip the precious droplets. This behavior reveals how resources are shared in unexpected ways within the rainforest. Even something as small as a tear becomes an opportunity for survival. These interactions highlight the subtle interdependence among species, where moments of stillness and vulnerability give rise to connections that sustain life across diverse worlds. The rainforest hides spiders that build webs in the dim spaces between branches. Enormous webs stretch across open air like shimmering nets. Their silk threads glisten with tiny droplets that highlight the patterns woven with exceptional strength. These spiders create structures wide enough for small birds to brush against. While flying, though, they rarely trap birds. The possibility exists because the webs are strong and strategically placed. Insects are their usual prey, but the size of the web grants them access to a greater variety of food. The spiders themselves are striking creatures with colors that stand out in the filtered light. They wait at the center of the web, motionless, sensing vibrations through delicate legs. Each tremor tells a story about what has entered their trap. Despite their size, these spiders play essential roles in balancing insect populations and maintaining the health of the ecosystem. Their presence reminds us that the rainforest contains marvels both beautiful and unexpected. Sloths grow algae in their fur and carry entire mini ecosystems. The thick fur of a sloth forms grooves that collect moisture, creating ideal conditions for algae to grow. This green tint helps sloths blend with the canopy, making them difficult for predators to spot. Within their fur live not only algae, but also insects and fungi that rely on a microclimate. The sloth provides. Some moths spend their entire life cycle within this moving habitat. As sloths descend to the ground to defecate, the moths lay eggs in the soil. When the young hatch, they crawl back into the fur, continuing the relationship that has existed for ages. The algae may offer nutrients when sloths lick their fur. During grooming together, these interactions form a tiny world that travels slowly through the branches. Sloths embody the rainforest theme of interconnected life, showing how even a single animal can host a community within its gentle movements. Some rainforests flood so deeply that fish swim among the trees. During certain seasons, water rises slowly through the forest until the ground disappears beneath shimmering pools that stretch for miles. The trunks of towering trees become pillars in a vast submerged world. Their roots hidden under calm currents. Fish glide through these underwater corridors. As if drifting through an ancient city, they feed on fruits that fall from the branches above, nibbling at seeds, and soft pulp. Some species time their migrations with the floods. Because the expanding waterways provide access to new feeding grounds, birds adjust their hunting strategies, diving into the water between branches. Monkeys watch the shifting landscape from high perches, waiting for the waters to reseed. The transformation is so complete that it is easy to forget that dry forest lies beneath the surface. When the flood finally retreats, it leaves behind nutrient-rich sediment that nourishes the entire ecosystem. This cycle reveals how fluid rainforest life can be, adapting with grace to the slow rise and fall of water. The Amazon River carries more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. This immense river moves with a steady force that shapes the entire landscape surrounding it. Its current is wide and powerful, carrying minerals, seeds, and drifting logs through channels that weave across continents. Many tributaries feed into the main river, gathering rain collected from forests that stretch beyond the horizon. The volume of water is so great that fresh water from the river pushes far into the ocean, creating a plume visible from high above the earth. Within its depths live countless species of fish, some found nowhere else. River dolphins navigate its murky waters using subtle sound patterns. Flooded forests depend on its rise and fall, responding to rhythms that have continued for countless generations. Traveling along its surface feels like moving across a living artery that nourishes everything it touches. The river carries stories of distant mountains, passing them onward to the sea, while feeding the rainforest. With every surge, rainforests create their own rain by breathing out moisture. Each leaf in the forest releases tiny droplets of water vapor into the air through a process that turns sunlight and stored water into mist. When millions of leaves do this all at once, the air above the canopy becomes saturated with moisture. Warm currents lift the vapor skyward until it cools and condenses into clouds. Eventually, these clouds release rain that falls back onto the forest, completing a cycle that depends on every plant from the tallest tree to the smallest shrub. This self-made rainfall helps maintain the constant humidity that rainforest life requires. Animals rely on this moisture for drinking water, cooling, and shelter. Even the soil benefits because repeated rains wash nutrients into layers where roots can reach them. What begins as a whisper of vapor from a single leaf becomes part of a vast atmospheric engine. In this way, the rainforest truly breathes, exhaling clouds that return as life-giving rain. Some rainforest trees grow so tall they pierce the clouds high above the forest floor. These towering giants lift their crowns into layers of mist that never touch the ground. Their trunks rise for what feels like forever, carrying entire communities of mosses, orchids, insects, and birds along with them. In the upper reaches, the air feels different, cooler, and washed with drifting silver clouds. Creatures that live in these heights may never descend, spending their entire lives in a world far above the soil. The immense strength of these trees comes from deep roots that lock into ancient earth and wide buttresses that anchor them through storms. Each trunk records centuries of shifting seasons, quiet floods, and distant lightnings. Some of these trees were already old when the first human stories were told. They serve as pillars of life, holding up the green architecture of the rainforest and creating safe pathways for gliders. Monkeys and wind-carried seeds. To stand beneath one is to feel the presence of time itself, stretching upward beyond sight. The rainforest canopy is a suspended world with its own weather. Far above the forest floor lies an airborne realm where sunlight pools in golden sheets and warm breezes drift between leaves that rarely touch the ground. This living ceiling is a labyrinth of branches, vines, and hidden hollows. Animals move through it as easily as others walk along earth. Up here, moisture gathers in pockets that become tiny fogs. Rain can fall inside the canopy without ever reaching the soil. Entire storms may be softened into gentle showers before they descend. The temperature can rise and fall independently of the world below because sunlight collects on broad leaves that warm the air. Plants take advantage of this unique climate, spreading wide crowns to catch light and channel water into reservoirs that feed creatures who never descend the Trunk scientists describe this space as a floating city built by nature, rich with life that most people will never see. Every gust of wind rearranges it. Yet the structure endures through centuries of change. Beneath the canopy lies a dark, humid realm few creatures ever leave. Down below the bright roof of leaves is a shaded world where the air remains heavy and still sunlight struggles to reach the ground, creating a place where dusk lasts all day. Plants grow slowly here, stretching patiently toward rare beams of light. Animals that dwell in this zone have adapted to near darkness. Some rely on scent instead of sight. Others move silently through damp litter that blankets the ground. The soil itself feels alive as insects, worms, roots, and fungi weave through it in constant motion. Fallen fruits decay quickly in the warmth, releasing rich nutrients that feed an entire community of hidden organisms. Every step is soft cushioned by centuries of leaf fall. To creatures that live here, the forest floor can feel like a different planet compared to the canopy above. Many never climb upward because they have become experts at navigating the shadows, thriving in a place shaped by quiet and depth. In some rainforests, tree roots climb rather than dig. Instead of burrowing into the soil, certain trees send their roots upward and outward, gripping the surface of trunks and rocks like living hands. These unusual roots spread across bark in delicate lattices that look almost like lace. They help the tree capture moisture from mist rather than water from the ground. This strategy allows life to grow where soil is thin or entirely absent. Some roots creep toward pockets of light, forming bridges that connect one tree to another. Others coil around their host in spirals that support the entire structure through storms. These climbing roots also provide homes for countless tiny organisms. Ants, spiders, beetles, and even small frogs find shelter within the grooves and tunnels they form. Because they are exposed to the air, they pulse with the humidity of the forest and become pathways for nutrients that move across the outer skin of a tree. This remarkable adaptation shows how inventive rainforest life can be when seeking new ways to survive. Epiphytes create floating gardens in the sky high above the ground. These remarkable plants take root not in soil, but on the branches of towering trees. They live suspended in air, catching moisture from mist and nutrients from drifting dust. Some form thick mats that cradle entire communities of insects and frogs. Others gather water inside natural basins formed by their leaves. These small pools become nurseries for tadpoles and drinking stations for birds. Epiphytes add layers of texture to the canopy, creating miniature forests above the main forest. Orchids, bromeliads, and mosses weave together into lush clusters that shimmer when dew settles on them. They do not harm the trees that host them. Instead, they use height to reach sunlight that would never touch the forest floor. Their presence helps shape the canopy into a vibrant world filled with life and color. Resting gently on the shoulders of ancient giants, some trees survive by strangling others from the top down, beginning life high in the branches of a host tree. These seedlings send roots downward through open air until they reach the soil far below. Once anchored, the roots thicken and wrap around the trunk that once supported them. Slowly, patiently, the gripping lattice tightens, limiting the host tree's growth and eventually surrounding it completely. As the original tree weakens, the newcomer rises in strength, building its own trunk and branches. Over many years, the host may disappear entirely, leaving a hollow column where its body once stood. Animals use the resulting structure as shelter, climbing inside the empty spaces created by this transformation. Though dramatic, this process is not driven by malice. It is simply one of many strategies evolved to reach sunlight in a crowded forest where life competes for every beam. When the tallest trees fall, entire light gaps bloom into jungles. A single fallen giant can reshape the landscape for decades. When it crashes to the ground, the canopy opens and sunlight pours into a space that has known dimness for generations. Seeds waiting silently in the soil suddenly awaken. Young plants surge upward in a race toward the new brightness. Vines stretch across the open-air. Shrubs and saplings cover the ground in a patchwork of green. Animals flock to the opening because flowers and fruits appear quickly in the warm light. Birds hunt insects stirred From the soil, small mammals explore the fresh pathways created by the fallen trunk. Over time, this light gap becomes a nursery for the future canopy filled with fast-growing pioneers that prepare the way for slower, longer-lived species. Eventually, the gap closes again, but the forest remembers through every tree that rises from that burst of renewal. Jaguars have been known to swim across flooded forests during seasonal rains. Rivers swell until they spill into the forest, blurring the line between land and water. Jaguars navigate this changing world with powerful strokes, gliding between trunks that rise from the flood like pillars. Their muscles ripple beneath patterned fur as they move with calm assurance through dark pools. Unlike many big cats, jaguars enjoy water and use it to their advantage. When hunting, they slip silently beneath low branches, listening for the splash of fish or the movement of caiman. Climbing is effortless for them, so they can shift from swimming to leaping onto a low branch in a single motion. Their paws make almost no sound when they reach the bank. Again, these journeys show how adaptable jaguars are in an environment that transforms dramatically from season to season. Water shapes their world, yet they remain graceful and sure in every form of movement. The rainforest demands. There are birds in the rainforest that can mimic almost any sound they hear deep within the trees. Some species possess extraordinary vocal talent that allows them to imitate a vast range of noises. They can reproduce the rhythm of dripping water, the call of other birds, or the rustle of branches swaying in the wind. Some even echo the sounds of distant animals they rarely encounter. Their ability comes from complex structures that vibrate in fine, controlled layers. Young birds learn through careful listening, matching tones with incredible precision. Mating displays become performances in which they showcase the full range of their mimicry. These displays attract mates and also signal territory to rivals. Within their songs lies a living archive of the sounds of the forest, because each generation carries patterns learned from the last. When they call, the rainforest itself seems to speak in many voices at once, blending memory and presence into a single flowing melody. Some ants grow entire fungal gardens underground beneath the forest floor. There are chambers carved through soil where colonies cultivate fungus with remarkable care. The ants gather leaves, clean them meticulously, and use them as a base for the fundrest to grow. Workers tend these gardens day and night, trimming away damaged sections and feeding fresh plant matter to the expanding network. The fungus provides nourishment to the colony, and in return, the ants protect it from pests and competing organisms. Paths extend from the nest into the surrounding forest, forming complex routes used for harvesting. Each trail reflects the colony's needs at that moment. The underground gardens remain warm and humid, maintained through precise airflow created by the arrangement of tunnels. These living farms have existed for countless generations, evolving alongside the ants. Observing them reveals a partnership so refined that no part of the colony survives alone. Together, they form one of nature's oldest examples of agriculture. There are monkeys that howl so loudly you can hear them miles away. Howler monkeys use deep, resonant calls that roll through the rainforest. Like distant thunder, their enlarged voice boxes and specialized throats allow them to project sound across vast distances. At dawn and dusk, groups communicate their location to others, reducing conflict by letting neighboring bands know where they are. The calls vibrate through leaves, drift along rivers, and rise through the canopy. Hearing them for the first time can be startling because the sound is powerful enough to seem much closer than it is. Despite their fierce voices, howler monkeys often led calm, slow-paced lives. They rest for much of the day, conserving energy by eating leaves that offer little fuel. Their vocal strength contrasts beautifully with their gentle movements. They play a crucial role in seed dispersal, helping young plants take root far from their parent trees. Electric blue frogs live among fallen leaves, warning predators with their brightness. Their vivid coloration announces their presence, boldly signaling to potential predators that they do not make easy prey. These frogs carry natural toxins produced through their diet of ants and small insects. The brilliance of their skin reflects sunlight in a way that catches the eye, even in dim undergrowth. Despite their size, they play a significant role In controlling insect populations, their calls are soft compared to their striking colors, forming gentle chirps that blend into the background. They raise their young in small pools of water, held within plants, transporting tadpoles one by one to safe nurseries. Every movement they make reveals a balance between vulnerability and strength. Their presence adds flashes of color to the forest floor, turning the quiet world of fallen leaves into a landscape of tiny wonders. Some rainforest clouds are born from the trees themselves. When sunlight warms the canopy, it releases scents, oils, and moisture into the air. These invisible particles rise and begin to gather, attracting water vapor that clings to them as more vapor collects. Small droplets form and slowly merge into clouds. These newborn clouds drift above the forest, sometimes staying low enough to brush the leaves, sometimes rising high into the sky. Their shapes change, constantly shaped by the movement of warm air rising from the forest below. When conditions align, these tree-borne clouds contribute to local storms that water the land. This process shows how closely the atmosphere and the rainforest are intertwined. The forest does not simply exist beneath the sky, it participates in shaping the sky. Each cloud that forms carries a trace of the leaf, bark, and breath of the forest, turning the air into a canvas painted by living trees. Rivers in the rainforest can suddenly turn acidic from falling leaves. As leaves drop into the water and begin to decay, they release tannins that darken the river and alter its chemistry. These tannins can give the water a deep tea-colored tint and create acidic conditions that influence which species can thrive. Some fish prefer these dark waters because they offer protection from predators. Others rely on the chemical shift to trigger breeding behaviors. The acidity also affects the growth of aquatic plants, shaping the underwater landscape in subtle ways. During certain seasons, when leaf fall increases, the transformation becomes rapid. The river changes character almost overnight. This natural process has occurred for ages, maintaining balance within the ecosystem. Even predators like river dolphins and caiman adjust to the altered clarity and scent of the water. These changing conditions reveal how closely connected the forest floor and river currents truly are. A single leaf can ripple through an entire ecosystem. Trees that live in flooded forests can breathe through their bark in areas where water covers the roots for long periods. Certain trees have evolved remarkable adaptations that allow them to survive. Their bark contains specialized tissues that let oxygen pass inward even when the trunk is submerged. This ability acts like a natural snorkel, delivering air to the living cells beneath the surface. Some species grow swollen bases or flared supports that help hold them steady in the shifting currents. Others develop channels within their trunks that move oxygen downward toward the roots. These adaptations allow the trees to remain alive in conditions that would suffocate most plants during long floods. The forest seems almost still, yet these submerged trunks continue exchanging gases with the surrounding air. When the waters finally recede, the trees resume normal growth as though nothing unusual has happened there. Quiet resilience demonstrates how the rainforest accommodates dramatic seasonal change. The forest floor can vanish underwater for half the year. In certain regions, seasonal rains transform the landscape so thoroughly that the distinction between land and river disappears. Water rises inch by inch until the undergrowth is submerged. Plants that usually cling to soil find themselves swaying in gentle currents. Fish swim over roots that were once hidden beneath dry leaves. Birds perch on branches now reflected in still pools. Many animals adapt their behavior to this temporary world. Some retreat to higher ground, while others venture into newly reachable areas. The soil beneath the water absorbs nutrients washed in by the flood, creating fertile conditions for future growth. When the waters retreat, the ground emerges renewed. Seeds germinate in the freshly enriched earth. Footpaths reappear. Small mammals return to forage. This cycle sustains the forest and shapes the lifetimes of countless species. The temporary disappearance of the forest floor reveals the fluid nature of rainforest ecosystems. Some fish migrate through forests instead of rivers. When seasonal floods spread water across the land, fish take advantage of the expanded habitat. They move through submerged undergrowth, weaving between tree trunks and fallen branches. This journey allows them to reach fruiting trees whose offerings drop directly into the water, many species rely on these seasonal meals to gain strength for breeding. The new routes also provide access to safe nurseries where predators find it harder to chase them. Young fish shelter among roots and leaf litter, feeding on insects washed from the soil. As waters recede, the fish return to the main channels, carrying the next generation with them. These migrations reflect a deep connection between fish and forest. They show that boundaries between land and water shift constantly in the rainforest when fish glide through a sunlit grove that once held walking animals. The landscape reveals its dual identity as both forest and sea. Lightning can spark wildfires even in the wettest places on Earth. Although rainforests are known for constant moisture, powerful lightning strikes can ignite dry pockets of leaves or branches that have been warmed by sunlight. Once a small flame begins, it may smolder quietly for days before conditions allow it to spread. These fires often remain low to the ground and move slowly, clearing debris without destroying the canopy. In doing so, they create space for new plants to grow. Some species even depend on occasional fire to germinate seeds or clear competition. Animals sense the change quickly and move to safer areas until the flames pass. Afterward, the forest floor bursts with fresh growth. Green shoots rise through ash, and insects return to reclaim their habitats. These natural fires remind us that even in landscapes defined by rain, fire plays a role in renewal. The rainforest contains cycles shaped by both water and flame. The rhythm of rainforest rain changes with the moon. As the moon moves through its cycles, subtle shifts occur in tides, winds, and atmospheric pressure. These changes influence humidity and cloud formation over the rainforest. During certain lunar phases, rain becomes more frequent and falls in softer, more evenly spaced showers. During others, storms can build with greater intensity. Animals respond instinctively to these cycles. Frogs calm more often under certain moonlit skies. Insects emerge at times when moisture levels rise. Plants release scents or pollen that drift more easily in the damp night air. The interplay between moonlight and rainfall creates a soft heartbeat that pulses through the forest each month. This rhythm has continued for ages, guiding migrations, blooming cycles, and the quiet unfolding of night. To listen to the rainforest under a full moon is to sense a connection between sky and earth that unfolds in patterns older than memory. Some rainforest flowers bloom for a single night, then vanish forever. These rare blossoms wait through seasons of quiet growth, gathering energy until the exact conditions align. When warmth, moisture, and moonlight meet in perfect harmony, the flower unfurls in silence. Its petals glow faintly in the darkness, as though illuminated from within. Sweet scents drift into the air, calling moths and other nocturnal pollinators. The bloom lasts only until dawn, when the first rays of sunlight touch the petals. By morning, the flower closes forever and begins to wilt, leaving behind only a developing fruit or seed pod. This fleeting display ensures that pollinators are drawn to the moment with full attention. Because the opportunity will never repeat, some plants produce these blossoms only once in many years. Others bloom at irregular intervals that scientists still struggle to predict. Witnessing such a flower feels like watching time pause, offering a glimpse of something delicate and profound that the forest carefully guards. There are trees that bleed red when cut. In the deeper parts of the rainforest, certain trees release vivid crimson sap. When their bark is pierced, the sap oozes slowly bright against the dark trunk, spreading into patterns that resemble flowing paint. This striking color comes from natural compounds that protect the tree from insects and bacteria. The thick liquid forms a seal over the wound, preventing further damage while also discouraging animals from feeding on the exposed tissue. Many cultures traditionally use this sap in rituals or medicine because its appearance evokes a sense of life force and resilience. Despite the dramatic sight, the tree feels no pain. It simply responds to injury with a protective mechanism evolved over countless generations. Birds, insects, and small mammals sometimes investigate the scent and texture attracted by its unusual properties. These trees demonstrate the rainforest's ability to surprise, revealing beauty even in moments of damage or stress. Certain vines grow in spirals to climb more efficiently, These vines coil upward in graceful curves, wrapping around branches and trunks in patterns shaped by light and gravity. Their spiral growth allows them to rise quickly toward the canopy. Without needing a thick self-supporting stem, each twist strengthens their hold, distributing weight evenly, so they can stretch remarkable distances without breaking as they climb. They adjust their direction based on subtle cues in the environment, reaching toward patches of brightness that filter through the leaves. Their movements are slow, yet constant, shifting position day by day. As they explore new footholds, animals use the vines as pathways between trees, turning them into natural bridges woven through the forest. Some vines develop specialized structures that help them grip rough bark or smooth surfaces. The spiraling shapes they create add elegance and texture to the rainforest, forming intricate networks that connect different layers of this towering ecosystem. Some rainforest plants can trap and digest insects in nutrient-poor soil. Certain plants have evolved extraordinary strategies to survive. Their leaves form cups, sticky surfaces, or delicate jaws that lure insects with scent or glistening droplets. Once the unsuspecting visitor lands, the structure closes or holds the insect in place. Digestive fluids begin to break down the prey, allowing the plant to absorb essential nutrients. These carnivorous plants do not rely solely on insects, but the additional nourishment helps them thrive in areas where other plants struggle. Light plays a major role in guiding their behavior. Some species adjust the angle of their traps to collect rainwater without washing away potential prey. Others rely on ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans that draw insects into their reach. These plants show how life in the rainforest adapts creatively to the challenges of limited resources. Their presence adds a sense of wonder to the forest floor, reminding us that even the quietest greenery can possess surprising powers. There are seeds in the rainforest that can survive being eaten and excreted by elephants. Elephants swallow fruits whole, their powerful digestive systems breaking down pulp while leaving certain seeds unharmed. As the animals travel long distances, they deposit the seeds far from the parent tree, embedded in nutrient-rich material that helps them sprout. This journey not only spreads the species across the landscape, but also increases the chance that the seedlings will grow in a location with adequate light and space. Some seeds even require the rough passage through an elephant's digestive tract to crack their outer shells and activate germination. This remarkable partnership has evolved over ages, shaping the structure of entire forests. Without elephants, many of these trees would struggle to reproduce effectively. Their relationship demonstrates how large animals can act as gardeners of the rainforest, carrying the next generation of life. Through rivers, valleys, and dense undergrowth, a single rainforest tree can hold more than 1,000 different insect species within the branches. Bark, leaves, roots, and hollow spaces of one mature tree lives a bustling world of tiny creatures. Each insect finds its own niche, from beetles that burrow into decaying wood to moth caterpillars that hide among curled leaves. Ant colonies may build nests in the trunk, while spiders weave delicate homes among the branches. Some insects feed on sap, while others graze on the algae and fungi growing along the bark. The diversity comes from the tree's ability to create numerous microhabitats, each with its own temperature, humidity, and food sources. Even the areas exposed to sunlight differ greatly from the shaded spaces near the roots. These layered environments support complex food webs where insects interact in ways that ripple outward through the entire forest. The sheer variety of life contained within one tree illustrates how densely packed rainforest ecosystems can be. There are plants that mimic the appearance of other plants to survive. These clever imitators shape their leaves' colors and growth patterns to resemble neighboring species. By blending in, they avoid detection by herbivores that might otherwise feed on them. Some mimic poisonous plants so convincingly that animals avoid them without hesitation. Others copy the growth habit of tougher species, giving the illusion of strength they do not actually possess. Their deception extends through entire seasons as they adjust subtle traits based on the conditions around them. Even insects can be Fooled, sometimes laying eggs on the wrong plant. Because of a well-crafted disguise, this mimicry allows the plants to conserve energy that would otherwise be spent producing toxins or repairing damage. Their survival depends on being overlooked, and the rainforest offers endless opportunities for disguise. The practice shows how life in dense ecosystems evolves through delicate balances of adaptation and camouflage. Some rainforest trees release chemicals that prevent other plants from growing nearby. To reduce competition, these trees send substances into the soil that slow or stop the growth of surrounding vegetation. These chemicals seep from roots or fallen leaves, creating a zone in which only certain species can thrive. This strategy ensures the tree has access to sunlight, water, and nutrients without battling dense undergrowth. The effect can be subtle, appearing only when seedlings try to sprout. They may fail to develop roots or wither shortly after emerging. Over time, the cleared space around the tree becomes a distinctive feature of the forest floor. Animals notice the pattern and may use the open ground as pathways or resting spots. Despite the competitive nature of this adaptation, it helps maintain diversity by shaping the distribution of plants. Each chemical interaction influences the structure of the forest in ways scientists are still working to understand. Certain rainforest fungi can control the minds of insects. These fungi release spores that land on unsuspecting insects, attaching to their bodies and slowly growing within. As the fungi spread, they release compounds that influence the insect's behavior. The insect begins to climb upward, seeking elevated places where the fungus can best release its spores. Once the insect reaches a suitable height, it attaches firmly to a leaf or twig. The fungus completes its life cycle by emerging from the insect's body and sending spores into the air. Although the process appears eerie, it forms a natural part of the rainforest balance. Other insects, birds, and scavengers help cleanse the environment by feeding on infected individuals. Researchers study these fungi to understand how microscopic organisms can shape the behavior of larger creatures. Their complex interactions reveal a world of hidden influences where life responds to forces that operate quietly but powerfully. Some plants use ultrasonic sounds to attract pollinators. These remarkable plants emit vibrations that pulse through the air at frequencies too high for human ears to detect. Certain insects, however, can sense these signals with great precision. When they approach, the subtle hum guides them toward flowers that may be concealed by leaves or positioned in shaded areas. Once the pollinators arrive, they find nectar arranged in patterns that match the shape of their bodies. The ultrasonic vibrations may also help loosen pollen or warm the floral tissue slightly, making the bloom more inviting. This communication method allows the plant to reach pollinators even in dense forest where visual cues can be limited. It represents a sophisticated form of interaction shaped through countless evolutionary cycles. Each transmission of sound reflects the plant's attempt to overcome obstacles of shadow and distance, drawing life toward itself by means other than sight or scent. Some rainforests are older than the Amazon River itself. In certain parts of the world, ancient forests began forming long before the Amazon River carved its first path across the continent. These forests grew during eras when Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and temperatures were profoundly different from today. Layer after layer of vegetation rose and fell across ages that stretched beyond human comprehension. As continents drifted and mountains rose, these forests adapted to shifting winds, changing rainfall, and new forms of life that appeared across the planet. Their soils became deep reservoirs of memory, built from countless generations of fallen leaves that decomposed slowly in the humid air. Within these layers lie chemical traces of climates long vanished, along with the fossilized remains of insects and plants that once dominated the landscape. Trees that live here today share ancestry with species that survived immense transitions and global transformations. When you walk beneath their branches, the stillness feels ancient, as though the forest carries the patience of time itself. These regions remind us that the rainforest is not simply a habitat, but a survivor of worlds that rose and vanished before modern ecosystems even began to form. Fossils show that ancient rainforests once grew In Antarctica, long before the continent became encased in ice, Antarctica held forests that flourished under unique conditions of nearly continuous summer sunlight and extended winter darkness. Deep within its rock, scientists had discovered leaf impressions, petrified wood, and delicate structures from ferns and seed plants that once spread across a warm and humid landscape. These fossils preserve the fine textures of fronds and the intricate patterns of ancient bark, showing that life once thrived. Where frozen deserts now dominate, the trees grew slowly, yet steadily, adapting to long periods without direct sunlight by storing energy. During bright seasons, insects likely scurried across the leaf litter, feeding on decaying material. In a world that felt more like a modern rainforest than a polar continent, studying these remnants offers insight into how climates can shift over immense spans of time. The presence of ancient forests beneath present-day ice reminds us that Earth has never been static. It breathes, changes, warms, cools, and reshapes itself again and again as life adapts in extraordinary ways. The DNA of rainforest plants holds clues to Earth's earliest ecosystems. When researchers analyze the genetic structures of plants that thrive in rainforests, they find traces of evolutionary chapters written long before humans existed. Some genes within these plants link directly to early land vegetation from a time when Earth was still experimenting with the first roots, stems, and protective coatings. Other sections of DNA reveal relationships between plants that appear dramatically different on the surface, yet share deep connections in their ancestry. These genetic signatures help scientists understand how early ecosystems functioned and how plants responded to ancient patterns of drought, flooding, volcanic activity, and atmospheric change. Some rainforest species show remarkable genetic stability through time, suggesting that their environments remain supportive and steady for millions of years. Others contain evidence of sudden bursts of evolution when climate or geography shifted in ways that forced rapid adaptation. Each leaf and seed carries an archive of information that cannot be found in rocks alone. By examining these living codes, researchers glimpse the long arc of plant evolution and the intricate history of the ecosystems that eventually shaped modern forests. Some insect lineages in rainforests have remained unchanged for millions of years. In the quiet spaces beneath leaves and along the bark of towering trees, there exist insects that resemble creatures preserved in ancient amber. Their body shapes, feeding habits, and life cycles mirror the forms that existed during eras when enormous reptiles roamed across warm and humid landscapes. These insects survived countless climatic shifts by retaining strategies that worked so well they required little modification. They continued pollinating plants, breaking down decaying matter, and serving as prey for larger animals, just as their ancestors did in ancient forests. Modern researchers studying their behavior see patterns so old that they stretch across geological ages. The persistence of these lineages provides a living connection to ecosystems that no longer exist. When one watches a small beetle crawl across a fallen branch, it is possible to imagine the same movement taking place millions of years ago in forests now lost to time. Their survival demonstrates how certain designs remain effective and how stable rainforest environments can preserve ancient life for astonishing lengths of time. Tropical rainforests were once the cradle of flowering plants deep in the distant past. When early forests covered vast regions of a warm planet, the first flowering plants began to experiment with new forms of reproduction. Before this moment, most plants relied on wind or water to move their spores. The arrival of flowers created new partnerships between plants and insects. These early blooms produced scents, colors, and shapes that drew pollinators toward them. As insects traveled between blossoms, they carried genetic material from one plant to another, encouraging rapid diversification. Tropical forests provided an ideal environment for this explosion of creativity because they offered stable temperatures, abundant rainfall, and constant opportunities for interaction among species over time. Flowering plants spread outward from these warm cradles into other habitats, transforming ecosystems with fruit seeds and intricate reproductive cycles. The modern rainforest still holds descendants of those early pioneers within their petals, light echoes of the moment, when Earth shifted from simple plant forms to the lush diversity that now covers much of the planet. Some rainforest species trace their ancestry to when dinosaurs roamed the earth in remote corners of tropical forests. Organisms thrive that have changed very little since ancient times. Certain ferns unfurl fronds that closely resemble fossilized leaves found in strata dating back to eras when giant reptiles dominated the land. Some reptiles and amphibians move through leaf litter with behaviors that echo their prehistoric ancestors. Even a few insects display patterns and wing structures matching those preserved in amber from the time of dinosaurs. These species survived mass extinctions by retreating into stable, sheltered environments where humidity, temperature, and light remained steady. The rainforest acted as a refuge when global circumstances shifted violently. Today, these living relics continue their ancient routines as though untouched by the march of deep time. Observing them evokes a sense of wonder, for they offer a direct link to worlds that vanished long before humans emerged. Certain rainforest trees are living fossil from a vanished world. These trees stand as remnants of eras that predate many mountain ranges and continents. In their current positions, their leaves often follow patterns seen in fossil collections more than 100 million years old. Their seeds and cones maintain structures that reflect early experiments in plant reproduction. They flourish in small pockets where environmental conditions mimic those of their distant past. Some grow slowly in shaded ravines that preserve ancient humidity levels. Others stand on mountain slopes where temperatures remain steady throughout the year. Because they survived so long, they carry unique genetic information that helps scientists reconstruct the evolution of plant life. Each trunk rises like a pillar of memory, connecting the present to chapters of Earth's history that would otherwise remain silent. Standing beneath one of these trees can feel like entering a temple built by time itself. Rainforest sediments preserve the stories of Earth's climate past in the quiet depths of forest ponds, in slow-moving floodplains, and beneath still waters that collect between roots. Fine particles settle year after year. These layers trap pollen, spores, minerals, charcoal, and fragments of leaves that drift down from the canopy. Over centuries, they stack gently into timelines that scientists can read like diaries. The presence or absence of certain pollen types reveals which species dominated the forest at different periods. Shifts in mineral content show how rains changed or how distant volcanic eruptions altered the atmosphere. Even tiny pieces of charcoal tell of ancient fires that moved through the forest long before written history began. When researchers draw sediment cores from these quiet places, they unravel the climate stories of thousands of years. Each layer reveals how the rainforest responded to droughts, floods, and transitions in global temperature. The sediments hold these memories, patiently waiting for those who know how to read them. The oldest known rainforest tree species may date back over 100 million years. Hidden within the vast diversity of tropical forests are species whose genetic roots reach into a time before many modern plant groups had even appeared. The ancestors of these trees lived through shifting continents, rising seas, and dramatic climate swings. Their leaves still follow patterns shaped in ancient climates, and their reproductive cycles preserve methods developed long before flowering plants reach their full diversity. These trees have endured because the rainforest offered stability across unimaginable spans of time. Within their bark lie chemical traces of ancient processes that continue even now. Their seeds fall into soil enriched by countless generations of predecessors, continuing a lineage that began when enormous reptiles still wander the earth. To touch the trunk of such a tree is to make contact with an age so distant that it feels almost mythic. Some rainforest organisms evolved alongside extinct megafauna. Long ago, forests echoed with the sounds of enormous herbivores that fed on leaves, bark, and fruits in abundance. Many plants adapted their structures to withstand browsing by these giants. Some developed thick protective rind around their fruit, Others grew large seeds that needed to pass through massive digestive systems before they could germinate properly. When the megafauna eventually disappeared, many of the plants survived despite losing their original partners. Their traits remain as echoes of ancient relationships. Even some insects appear to have co-evolved with these towering animals, feeding on materials created by their movements or waste. Today, these plants and insects continue to display characteristics shaped by an age that ended long before modern forests took form. They carry the imprint of interactions with creatures that no longer walk the earth, reminding us that evolution is a living map of connections that stretch far into the past. A teaspoon of rainforest soil can hold more microbes than there are people on Earth. Within a tiny scoop of rainforest earth lives a universe of organisms so small and so numerous that they exceed the human population many times over. Each microbe fulfills a specific role that shapes the health of the entire forest. Some break down fallen leaves into nutrients, others form partnerships with tree roots, helping plants absorb minerals that would otherwise remain locked within the soil. Many species remain unknown to science because they cannot easily be grown or studied outside their natural environment. When researchers examine rainforest soil under powerful microscopes, they see countless shapes and movements within a single drop of moisture. Some microbes drift like floating dust. Others cling to tiny mineral grains or form delicate networks that anchor them in place together. They create a living foundation that supports every organism above them. Without these unseen workers, the forest would lose its ability to recycle nutrients, regulate water flow, and sustain new growth. The soil becomes a quiet world where life thrives in miniature, proving that even the smallest spaces in the rainforest hold astonishing abundance. There are fungi that live entirely inside leaves. Never touching the air, these fungi spend their entire lives within the delicate tissues of leaves, weaving through microscopic spaces between plant cells. They remain invisible to the naked eye, forming intricate networks that help protect the leaf from harm. Some strengthen the plant by defending it against invading microbes. Others produce compounds that deter insects from chewing through the leaf surface. Because they never emerge into open air, they avoid drying out and remain shielded from predators. The plant benefits from their presence, and the fungi rely on the stable environment within the leaf. This partnership often lasts for the entire lifespan of the plant tissue. When the leaf eventually falls, the fungi help decompose it, returning nutrients to the soil. Their existence reveals a hidden dimension of rainforest life, where entire ecosystems unfold inside spaces too small for humans to see. These fungi expand our understanding of biodiversity and show that the rainforest contains layers of life within layers of life. Some lizards change color to match the shadows of different trees. In the shifting light beneath the canopy, certain lizards possess an extraordinary ability to alter their color, so they blend with the precise shade of the branch or bark they rest upon. Their skin contains specialized cells that expand or contract to adjust the mixture of pigments visible from the surface. These adjustments occur in response to light intensity, temperature, mood, and the pattern surrounding them. When a cloud drifts overhead and casts a cooler tint across the forest, the lizard subtly darkens to remain concealed. When sunlight pierces through the leaves and paints the world with warmer tones, its skin brightens. This constant adaptation allows the lizard to avoid predators and approach prey without detection. Scientists studying this phenomenon find that each species responds to specific cues that reflect its unique ecological niche. The rainforest becomes a living stage where color flows in harmony with light, shadow, and movement. Rainforest bats use sonar to navigate tangled jungle corridors. As night envelopes the forest, bats take to the air with astonishing precision. They emit high-frequency pulses that bounce off branches, vines, insects, and trunks. The returning echoes form a detailed map within their minds, allowing them to move swiftly through dense vegetation without ever brushing a leaf. Each pulse reveals distance, shape, and direction, creating an ever-shifting acoustic image of their surroundings. These bats hunt moths and beetles that also fly in darkness, adjusting their flight path midair. With remarkable speed, some species communicate with one another through variations in their calls, coordinating movements within shared hunting territories. Their ability to navigate through such complex environments demonstrates the sophistication of echolocation. When they glide among tree trunks that twist in unpredictable patterns, they depend entirely on sound and instinct, watching a bat weave through the forest at night is like observing a creature reading invisible pathways known only to sound and motion. The humidity inside a rainforest orchid can reach near boiling levels. Hidden within the folds of an orchid flower lies a pocket of air that can trap heat and moisture to an astonishing degree. As sunlight warms the petals, the space within becomes a sheltered chamber where humidity builds to extreme levels. This warm interior creates an ideal environment for delicate reproductive processes. Pollinators that enter the flower find themselves surrounded by thick moisture that enhances the release of scent and assists in pollen transfer. Some insects remain inside for brief periods, feeding on nectar, while the orchid ensures successful pollination. The heat trapped within the bloom also discourages small predators that might otherwise damage its fragile structures. Each orchid species shapes the internal climate of its flowers with remarkable precision, adjusting the size and curve of the petals to regulate airflow. This hidden world exists only for a short time before the bloom wilts and returns its energy to the plant. Within these ephemeral chambers, the rainforest reveals another example of how nature engineers intricate environments on a scale small enough to disappear. With a closing petals, some mosses in the rainforest glow under ultraviolet light on dim forest floors where sunlight arrives in scattered fragments. Certain mosses contain pigments that emit a soft radiance when touched by ultraviolet rays. Although this glow is invisible during ordinary daylight, it becomes visible under the special wavelengths present at dawn, dusk, or during low light periods. The glow may help attract insects that assist in spore dispersal or may protect the moss from damage caused by intense radiation. These pigments form delicate patterns across the moss surface, creating a subtle shimmer that blends with the damp earth and fallen leaves. Scientists studying these species find that each type of moss produces its own distinctive glow, almost like a quiet signature left upon the forest floor. The radiance highlights the beauty of organisms often overlooked because of their size and the presence of ultraviolet light. These tiny clumps reveal an unexpected brilliance that turns a shaded corner of the rainforest into a gentle constellation of living green stars. There are centipedes in the rainforest that prey on bats within the darkness of caves and hollow trees. Enormous centipedes climb walls with silent precision. Their legs grip even the smoothest surfaces, allowing them to position themselves just below roosting bats. When a bat drops lower or shifts to a vulnerable angle, the centipede lunges upward, using strong mandibles to seize the creature in midair. It coils its long body around the struggling bat until movement ceases. This surprising predator relationship shows how rainforest life can push the boundaries of what seems possible. The centipede's sensory organs help it detect heat and vibration, giving it an advantage in the darkness. Despite their impressive abilities, these creatures rarely encounter humans because they prefer hidden spaces. Their existence illustrates how predators come in many forms in the rainforest, some unexpected and astonishing. Observing such interactions deepens our understanding of food webs that operate far from daylight. In the rainforest, even water droplets can become miniature ecosystems. After a rainfall, droplets cling to leaves, branches, and delicate moss beds. Within each drop, microorganisms begin to gather. Some drift in on the wind, others wash down from higher canopy layers. These droplets can contain entire chains of life, from tiny plankton-like creatures to microscopic predators that feed on smaller organisms. The chemistry within each droplet shifts as sunlight warms it, and as nutrients dissolve from the leaf surface. Some insects rely on these droplets to lay eggs that hatch into larvae. Frogs may deposit their young in larger pools held within curled leaves. Each droplet becomes a tiny world that lasts only until it evaporates or falls to the soil. Yet in that brief time, it holds interactions that Mirror larger ecosystems, energy flows from sunlight to microbes to predators in cycles too small for human eyes to follow without specialized tools. The rainforest reminds us that life flourishes at every scale. Tiny beetles can survive the pressure of falling from a 100-foot tree in the canopy. Accidents happen constantly. Wind shakes branches, predators scatter prey, leaves release their grip on insects resting upon them. When a beetle tumbles from a great height, it does not break. Instead, its small size and rigid body structure allow it to ride the air, slowing its descent through a combination of lift and passive resistance. Many beetles curl their legs inward and let their body rotate gently as they fall. Some even spread microscopic hairs that increase air resistance, just enough to reduce impact force. By the time they reach the forest floor, they land almost as lightly as drifting seeds. This remarkable resilience allows them to explore the canopy without fear of fatal accidents. Their ability to survive such significant falls contributes to their success in the rainforest environment, where vertical space is as important as horizontal ground. Some butterflies have transparent wings that shimmer like glass in sunlight. These butterflies appear almost invisible except for faint outlines that flicker as they move. Their wings contain specialized scales spaced far apart, allowing light to pass through rather than reflect it. This transparency provides exceptional camouflage. Because predators struggle to track something that blends with the shifting colors of the forest, when the butterfly tilts its wings, certain angles catch the light and produce gentle flashes that look like tiny panes of colored glass. These subtle gleams are not meant to be warnings, but rather a side effect of delicate wing structure. The butterflies rest on leaves, where their bodies become nearly impossible to see unless one observes the faint movement of antennae. Their presence adds an ethereal touch to the rainforest, as though fragments of the sky drift silently among the trees at night. The rainforest sings with thousands of unseen voices. When darkness settles over the canopy, the rainforest awakens into a symphony woven from countless creatures. Frogs begin the chorus, their calls rising from pools, branches, and curled leaves that cradle beads of water. Insects respond with vibrating wings that create shimmering tones. Mammals add soft rustles as they move through the undergrowth. Even the trees contribute subtle sounds as cooling air shifts through their towering branches. The forest seems to inhale and exhale in rhythms shaped by nocturnal life. Many of these voices belong to species that hide from daylight, emerging only when shadows deepen. Each sound carries information about territory, courtship, danger, or discovery, yet the layers overlap in ways that create a tapestry rather than chaos. As you listen, patterns emerge that reveal how deeply connected these animals are to one another and to the land itself. The night chorus becomes a reminder that the rainforest never sleeps. It simply changes the language through which life expresses itself. There are flowers that only open under the full moon. In secluded pockets of the rainforest, certain plants wait for the exact brightness of a full moon before unfurling their petals. These blossoms rely on pale light that filters through the canopy, guiding nocturnal pollinators directly toward them. Their petals often appear white or silvery, so they glow gently under lunar illumination. The air around them fills with scent that intensifies only during these nights, drawing moths and beetles that navigate by moonlight. The bloom is brief and precise, timed to align with the cycles of the sky. When the moon begins to wane, the flowers close once again, conserving energy until the next period of ideal light returns. These plants embody a relationship between earth and sky that unfolds quietly, yet with astonishing accuracy. Their blooms become fleeting celebrations of celestial timing and the deep intelligence of nature. Nocturnal monkeys leap silently through the branches in pitch darkness. In the deepest night, when even moonlight struggles to penetrate the canopy, certain monkeys move with astonishing grace. They rely on finely tuned senses other than sight, such as acute hearing and an ability to detect subtle changes in air movement. Their hands and feet grip bark with practiced familiarity as they judge distances through memory, instinct, and the faint texture of surrounding branches. These monkeys travel in family groups that communicate with gentle clicks or soft notes that do not disturb sleeping creatures nearby. They forage for fruit or insects hidden within curled leaves, using touch to replace the guidance of light. Watching them reveals how fully animals adapt to nocturnal life. They do not hesitate, even when leaping across wide gaps. Their bodies seem shaped for darkness, navigating a world that appears invisible to human eyes, yet perfectly clear to them. Luminescent fungi light up the forest floor like stars when night deepens and moisture thickens the air. Small clusters of fungi begin to glow with soft green or blue radiance. This light emerges from chemical reactions within their cells that occur when the fungi break down decaying material. The glow is often subtle, visible only when all other light fades, yet incompletely. Dark spaces, the forest floor, can take on an otherworldly appearance, dotted with faint points that resemble scattered stars. Insects drawn to the glow may help spread spores as they land and explore the illuminated surfaces. Some fungi brighten after rainfall, while others glow most intensely when approaching maturity. Scientists continue to study why these species produce light, yet each discovery reveals deeper complexity. The forest becomes a cosmic landscape beneath the canopy where decay transforms into delicate gradients. This quiet glow reminds us that life can express beauty even in its final stages. Night vision. Snakes glide through black water under a canopy of silence. In flooded forests, certain snakes move effortlessly through dark water without relying on visible light. Their bodies contain heat-sensing structures that allow them to detect the warmth of prey hidden among roots or drifting branches. They slip between submerged logs with fluid movements disturbing nothing as they pass. Their eyes gather whatever faint light exists, while their tongues sample chemical traces carried by the current. These snakes often hunt fish, amphibians, or small mammals that venture near the water's edge. Their presence becomes known only by the brief ripple that trails behind them. The rainforest around them remains quiet, as though holding its breath. The snake's journey through the dark water reflects the deep subtlety of nocturnal life, where survival depends on senses that operate beyond human perception. Even in silence, the forest brims with unseen movement and purpose. Some moths hear the echolocation calls of bats and dodge them mid-flight. In aerial battles, invisible to the eye, moths have evolved extraordinary hearing organs that detect the high-frequency pulses emitted by hunting bats. When these pulses reach them, the moth reacts instantly, folding its wings or altering its flight pattern with unpredictable twists. Some dive sharply downward, while others veer into chaotic paths that confuse predators. These evasive maneuvers occur in fractions of a second, shaped by millions of years of evolutionary pressure. The forest sky becomes a realm of constant negotiation between hunter and prey. Moths that succeed pass their heightened sensitivity to the next generation, refining this remarkable survival skill. Observing them reveals the intricate arms race unfolding each night in the canopy. Their responses contribute to the delicate balance of rainforest ecosystems, where adaptation defines every relationship. Tree frogs change their color entirely between day and night. During daylight, certain tree frogs display bright patterns that help them blend with sunlit leaves or warn predators of natural toxins. As night approaches, their skin shifts into deeper tones that conceal them among shadows. This transformation occurs through pigment cells that expand or contract within the skin. The process is influenced by temperature, moisture, and the subtle rhythm of the frog's internal clock. Once darkness settles, the frogs climb higher into the canopy, using their altered colors to avoid nocturnal predators. In the morning, their colors brighten once again. This daily cycle highlights the dynamic interplay between behavior, physiology, and environment. Their outer appearance becomes a living response to changing light, revealing how deeply creatures attune themselves to the cycles of the rainforest. Nocturnal beetles send pulses of infrared light invisible to the human eye. Certain beetles communicate at night using flashes of light that fall outside the visible spectrum these pulses travel through. The air in narrow beams that only other members of the species can detect. The beetles use this hidden language to locate mates or coordinate movement through dense vegetation. Their bodies contain specialized structures that produce heat-based light in brief bursts. Because predators cannot see these signals, the beetles communicate safely without attracting unwanted attention. This invisible conversation forms another layer of the rainforest nocturnal world. Scientists studying these beetles often require specialized cameras to capture the signals. When viewed through this equipment, the darkness reveals a silent exchange of glowing threads. These insects remind us that countless interactions unfold beyond our senses, and that the rainforest contains entire conversations hidden within wavelengths people cannot perceive at night. The forest breathes differently than it does by day. When the sun sets, the rainforest shifts its entire rhythm. Plants slow their release of oxygen and increase the uptake of carbon dioxide. The temperature cools, allowing moisture to condense into beads that coat leaves, vines, and branches. The air thickens slightly as humidity rises. Animals adjust to this change. Nocturnal species emerge to feed, while daytime creatures retreat into sheltered hollows. Sounds shift from the chatter of birds to the hum of insects and the deep calls of amphibians. Even the soil cools, releasing scents that attract nighttime foragers. The forest moves into a softer pattern that allows creatures to rest or awaken, depending on their biological clocks. This nightly transformation illustrates the rainforest's ability to operate as a vast, breathing organism with cycles that shape every living thing within it. Some carnivorous plants only trap prey after dusk. Certain carnivorous species time their feeding activity with the arrival of darkness. Their traps remain open during the day, appearing harmless to insects that wander across their surfaces. As night falls, the plants shift their internal chemistry, making their surfaces more adhesive or altering the movement of trapped structures. Some release subtle scents that attract nighttime insects seeking moisture or nectar. Once the prey lands, the trap closes with slow yet decisive movement, beginning the process of digestion. This nocturnal strategy allows the plants to avoid competition with daytime predators, while taking advantage of insects active at night. Their ability to coordinate feeding with environmental cues demonstrates a refined adaptation to the rhythms of the rainforest. Under the moonlit canopy, these quiet hunters wait patiently for the right moment to secure nourishment. The Congo Basin rainforest pulses with storms like a living heart across this immense landscape. Weather does not simply arrive, it builds slowly within the forest itself, gathering strength as countless trees release moisture into the sky. Warm air rises in towering columns until clouds begin to swirl above the canopy. In the distance, thunder murmurs like the slow beat of something ancient. Lightning flashes across the horizon and illuminates the trunks of colossal trees. Rain begins as a soft patter, barely perceptible among the ferns, before swelling into a powerful downpour that sweeps through the forest with the energy of a living pulse. Animals sense these changes long before the first drop falls. Birds retreat into thick foliage. Elephants adjust their routes. Even insects alter their flight patterns as pressure shifts. When the rain arrives, it cools the air and replaces the heavy stillness with a fresh scent rising from soil newly awakened. The storms ebb and swell in patterns so consistent that the forest seems to breathe in storms and exhale calm. This cycle shapes life across the basin, nurturing plants and animals that rely on the dependable rhythm of sky, water, and thunder. Southeast Asia's rainforests echo with the calls of gibbons at dawn as the first pale light touches the canopy. Gibbons begin their elaborate songs. Their voices rise in sweeping arcs that carry across valleys and riverbanks, weaving through vines and drifting above treetops. Each call contains patterns that communicate territory, companionship, and the supple rhythm of family bonds. Their long arms and agile bodies allow them to swing from branch to branch with effortless grace as they sing, creating music and movement that blend into a single expression of dawn. Other creatures awaken in response. Birds answer with their own layered notes. Insects begin their daily chorus. Even the leaves seem to vibrate. As sunlight grows stronger, gibbon families often sing together creating harmonies that travel great distances over the humid air. These morning performances mark the beginning of the forest's daily unfolding. The songs act as landmarks of sound that define space and time for creatures near and far. Hearing them feels like witnessing the forest open its eyes for the first time. Each day, Australia's ancient rainforests shelter some of the world's rarest marsupials hidden among the lush greenery of Australia's oldest forests, live marsupials found nowhere else on Earth. Some glide silently through the night on folds of skin that catch the humid air. Others move slowly across moss-covered branches, their large eyes designed for dim light filtered through ancient canopies. These species trace their ancestry across millions of years, surviving dramatic climate shifts and the arrival of countless new predators and competitors. The rainforest offers them shelter in the form of dense understory, cool ravines, and tree hollows shaped by centuries of growth. Many depend on specific plants for food, choosing leaves, nectar, or fruits that grow only in narrow ecological niches. Their existence reveals the strength of ancient ecosystems that preserve life forms deeply connected to the past. To encounter one of these marsupials is to witness a living chapter of evolutionary history preserved by forests that have endured since times long before modern animals emerged. New Guinea's rainforest is home to birds that build elaborate courtship stages within the deep green of New Guinea's forest. Certain birds create intricate arenas designed purely for the purpose of attracting mates. These stages often begin as simple clearings on the forest floor. Over time, the birds decorate them with carefully selected leaves, berries, sticks, and objects that catch the eye. Some arrange materials in spiral patterns, others build small towers or archways. Each design reflects the individual's creativity and strength. Once the stage is complete, the bird performs dances filled with sweeping gestures, fluttering movements, and precise steps that display its skills. Nearby females watch the performance and evaluate the artistry, rhythm, and effort shown. The building and dancing can continue for many days as the bird refines each detail. These courtship rituals demonstrate extraordinary intelligence and persistence. They also highlight the rainforest's role as a cradle for complex behaviors shaped by beauty, precision, and the desire to impress. Madagascar's rainforest shelter species found nowhere else on Earth, separated from other continents for millions of years. Madagascar developed ecosystems that evolved in near isolation within its rainforest. Live creatures so distinct that they seem like inhabitants of another world entirely. Lemurs leap gracefully through the canopy with movements unlike any other primates. Chameleons shift their colors in response to subtle cues found in these unique habitats. Rare plants produce blossoms with shapes and scents found nowhere else. Even the forest floor contains species of insects, fungi, and reptiles that exist only on this island. The separation allowed life to chart unusual evolutionary paths, creating forms and behavior seen in no other rainforest. Many of these organisms depend on highly specific microhabitats found only in narrow regions of Madagascar. Their survival reflects both the fragility and resilience of isolated ecosystems. To walk through these forests is to witness life shaped by deep time, guided by conditions unlike anywhere else on Earth. The Daintree rainforest may be the oldest surviving tropical rainforest in the world. Along the northeastern coast of Australia lies a forest that carries the memory of ancient ages. The Daintree has endured shifting climates, rising seas, and continental movements that reshaped the surrounding land. Many plant species found here represent early branches of the evolutionary tree, maintaining forms close to their prehistoric ancestors. Vines climb trunks that have sheltered generations of creatures. Ferns unfurl fronds that echo patterns found in fossils dating back tens of millions of years. The forest streams flow through landscapes shaped by a lineage of plants and animals that survived when others disappeared. Some insects and birds found in these forests retain traits linking them to ancient lineages. The Daintree offers a rare window into what early tropical forests may have looked like long before modern ecosystems formed. Walking within its shadows feels like stepping into a time that predates human history, carried forward by the patience of nature. Borneo's jungle canopy is alive with orangutans, gliders, and sunbears high above the forest floor. Borneo's canopy forms an interconnected world where creatures move with astonishing independence from the ground. Orangutans travel through this elevated realm using powerful arms to navigate from tree to tree in search of fruit, leaves, and bark. Beneath their pathways glide small mammals that spread membranes of skin and float silently from branch to branch. Some bears climb thick trunks with strong claws to reach honey hidden within tree hollows. Each species uses the canopy in unique ways, turning it into a layered network of activity. The branches act as highways for movement, communication, and feeding. Even plants adapt to this high environment by developing leaves that capture sunlight filtered through many layers of green. Life in Borneo's canopy demonstrates how richness multiplies when species explore different levels of the same forest. Sri Lanka's wet zone forests bloom with flowers not found on any other continent. In the lush wet zones of Sri Lanka, rain nourishes forests that burst into color with exquisite blossoms found nowhere else in the world. Some flowers unfold only in the dim light beneath dense canopies, others bloom along mist-covered cliffs where cool winds carry their scent across the landscape. Many plants depend on highly specialized pollinators, creating relationships that evolve through countless generations. Birds with bright feathers visit certain flowers exclusively, while insects navigate intricate shapes designed to guide their movements. These unique blossoms mirror the island's long history of isolation and shifting climate. Their presence creates seasonal spectacles across the rainforest, transforming green landscapes into scenes of vibrant color. Each bloom expresses the island's deep ecological identity and adds to the diversity that draws researchers and visitors from around the globe. Central America's rainforests form narrow corridors teeming with jaguars and toucans stretching between continents. These forests create living bridges that allow species to travel across great distances. Jaguars roam through shadowed undergrowth, following ancient paths that cross rivers and mountains. Toucans glide between fruiting trees with bright bills that stand out against the canopy. Many species rely on these corridors to maintain healthy populations, moving from region to region in search of new feeding grounds or mates. The forests themselves change gradually along the corridor, blending distinct ecosystems into a mosaic of habitats. Each region supports creatures adapted to subtle shifts in rainfall, altitude, and vegetation. These connected pathways sustain the movement of life across Central America, linking creatures in a web that stretches from one ocean to the other. The corridors become highways of biodiversity where predators, pollinators, and migrants maintain balance across the land. Even Hawaii once held tropical rainforests filled with lost legends and lava trees. Long before large human settlements, Hawaii's volcanic mountains were draped in thick rainforests where unique birds sang from branches coated in moss and mist. Lava flows from ancient eruptions cooled beneath the forests and left behind hollow pillars known as lava trees. These natural sculptures formed when molten rock surged around living trunks and then hardened. While the trees burned away over time, plants returned to these landscapes, creating environments rich with species found nowhere else on the planet. The rainforests once sheltered honey creeper birds with vivid plumage, insects that evolved specialized feeding habits, and plants that flourished in volcanic soil. Many of these species are now rare or vanished, leaving behind traces of their presence in stories and scientific records. The remnants of Hawaii's ancient rainforests offer glimpses of worlds shaped by fire, water, and deep time, where life adapted to the rhythms of an island still growing from the sea. Rainforests pull carbon from the atmosphere with every breath. Each leaf within the rainforest acts as a living gateway between the air and the earth. Through the quiet process of photosynthesis, plants draw carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and transform it into the building blocks of their trunks, branches, fruits, and roots. This happens every moment of every day, guided by sunlight that filters through endless layers of green. When you stand among these trees, You stand in the presence of a vast machine that turns air into life. The forest holds this carbon not only in wood, but also in soil enriched by centuries of fallen leaves and roots. Animals add their own contributions as they eat, exhale, and move nutrients across the land. The process is steady and constant, like a deep inhale that continues across generations. Without this immense exchange, Earth's atmosphere would feel very different. Rainforests help moderate temperatures, support stable climates, and offer the world a breath of balance. They do so quietly, one leaf and one moment at a time. The disappearance of rainforest affects rainfall thousands of miles away. Moisture released by rainforest trees rises into the sky, where it gathers into clouds that travel far beyond the boundaries of the forest itself. These clouds carry water across continents, feeding distant farms, rivers, and mountain ranges. When forests shrink, the sky receives less moisture, air currents lose strength, and rainfall patterns shift. Regions far removed from the tropics can experience drought or unpredictable storms because of changes that begin with tree loss thousands of miles away. Researchers have traced these atmospheric pathways, revealing how vapor born within a single rainforest may journey across oceans before falling as rain in entirely different climates. This global linkage shows that rainforests act not only as local ecosystems, but also as engines that drive hydrological cycles for the entire planet. Their loss disrupts patterns that have taken millions of years to stabilize. Every tree removed weakens a complex chain of events that sustain life far beyond the forest borders. Some rainforest trees release cooling aerosols into the sky. Certain species emit tiny organic particles that drift upward from their leaves and branches. These aerosols interact with moisture in the air, helping clouds to form more efficiently. When sunlight strikes the tops of these clouds, it reflects back into space rather than heating the ground. This creates a cooling effect that benefits not only the forest but also regions far beyond it. The trees perform this function naturally, adjusting their emissions according to temperature, humidity, and light. During the warmest parts of the day, aerosol levels often rise, assisting the forest in releasing excess heat. Over time, this process shapes local weather patterns and contributes to global climate regulation. Scientists studying this phenomenon describe it as a form of atmospheric communication in which trees help regulate the temperature of the world. These natural particles act as tiny mirrors that soften the sun's intensity and maintain the delicate equilibrium that rainforest life depends upon. Even the shape of rainforest leaf affects how Earth regulates heat. Leaf shapes vary dramatically across the rainforest, from long pointed blades that shed water quickly to broad rounded surfaces that gather moisture. These shapes influence how sunlight is absorbed or reflected. Large leaves capture warmth and release moisture through gentle evaporation, cooling the surrounding air. Narrow leaves reflect light differently and create subtle airflow patterns around their edges. Dripping tips guide water away from delicate tissues and help prevent overheating during strong sunlight. When billions of leaves perform these functions together, they alter the temperature of the entire forest and contribute to global heat regulation. The combined effect of leaf geometry, surface texture, and water movement creates a dynamic cooling system woven into every level of the canopy. This system helps stabilize temperatures and humidity, ensuring that countless species can thrive in conditions that remain remarkably consistent from season to season. The rainforest becomes a living mosaic where each leaf plays a part in shaping Earth's climate. The loss of rainforest canopy can raise ground temperatures by more than 10 degrees. When trees disappear, the land beneath them feels the change immediately. Sunlight that once filtered gently through leaves now strikes the soil with full intensity. Without shade, moisture evaporates rapidly and the ground heats to levels that many plants and animals cannot tolerate. Studies of cleared land reveal that temperatures can rise by more than 10 degrees when the protective canopy is removed. This shift alters the balance of the entire ecosystem. Seeds that once sprouted easily become dry and dormant. Insects that required cool understory conditions move away or die. Small mammals struggle to find shelter as the ground becomes too warm for comfortable movement. Even the soil itself suffers, losing nutrients as heat and wind carry them away. The canopy acts as an insulating blanket for the rainforest, safeguarding life below. When it vanishes, the forest loses more than shade. It loses the very conditions required to sustain its extraordinary biodiversity. Rainforests influence the flow of entire jet streams across the planet, the rising columns of warm air above. Tropical forests do more than create local weather. They shape the pathways of powerful winds that circle the globe. These high-altitude currents, known as jet streams, respond to shifts in heat distribution. When rainforests release moisture and regulate temperature, they create distinct patterns in atmospheric circulation. Changes in forest cover can alter the strength, direction, and stability of these winds. Such shifts may affect the timing of storms, the arrival of monsoon seasons, and the formation of droughts in faraway regions. The forest acts as both anchor and guide for the jet streams, helping maintain balance in systems that govern weather across continents. This reveals that the rainforest is connected not only to tropical climates, but also to deserts, grasslands, and temperate zones. It participates in global dialogue between land, ocean, and sky, influencing events thousands of miles beyond its borders. Soil in untouched rainforests can lock away carbon for centuries beneath the dense web of roots and fallen leaves. Lies soil that has built its richness over unimaginable spans of time. Organic material decays slowly in the humid yet shaded conditions, creating a foundation that stores vast amounts of carbon. Microbes and fungi break down plant matter at rates perfectly balanced by the forest's continual input of fresh material. This slow cycling allows nutrients to remain in the soil for centuries before returning to the atmosphere. In untouched regions, the soil becomes a deep archive of stored carbon that contributes significantly to Earth's long-term climate stability. Disturbance of this soil releases carbon back into the air, accelerating warming and disrupting the ancient balance. Protecting intact forests therefore protects these subterranean reservoirs that have quietly supported the planet for ages. The soil beneath the rainforest is more than earth. It is a living vault shaped by time, moisture, and the gentle work of countless organisms. Forest fires in the tropics can accelerate the melting of Arctic ice. When fires burn in tropical regions, they release dark particles that rise high into the atmosphere. Winds carry these particles across continents until they eventually settle on snow and ice. In polar landscapes, the darkened surface absorbs more sunlight than clean ice, causing it to warm and melt more quickly. This creates a feedback cycle in which melting exposes more ground or water, which then absorbs even more heat. Although the source of the particles may be thousands of miles away, the impact reaches the farthest edges of the planet. The relationship between tropical fires and Arctic melt demonstrates the interconnectedness of Earth's climate system. What occurs beneath a rainforest canopy can influence the fate of distant glaciers. This connection underscores the importance of preventing unnecessary fires and protecting forests that play vital roles in moderating global temperatures. Rainforests are one of Earth's greatest climate stabilizers. They regulate heat, moisture, atmospheric chemistry, and global patterns of wind and rain. They hold vast stores of carbon in trunks, branches, and soil. They cool the air through evaporation and shape weather through cloud formation. Every feature of the rainforest contributes to a balanced climate. Cutting away these forests weakens Earth's ability to maintain stability. Preserving them strengthens natural resilience. Their influence spans continents and oceans, guiding rainfall into parched regions and preventing storms from spiraling into extremes. They create consistent temperatures within their own boundaries and buffer global systems against dramatic shifts. Standing within a rainforest is to stand inside a vast engine of balance. It is a reminder that stability comes from cooperation between living systems, each thread connected to countless others across the planet. Tree roots in rainforests help anchor entire landscapes against erosion. Roots extend far beneath the surface, weaving through soil. Like living ropes, they bind loose particles together, preventing rainfall from washing the ground into rivers. During storms, these roots act as stabilizing anchors that hold slopes in place and protect riverbanks from collapse. The network of roots also directs water through the soil in slow, steady channels that reduce flooding and maintain groundwater. When forests disappear, this natural support system collapses, causing landslides, muddy rivers, and degraded habitats. In untouched forests, the roots contribute to a complex architecture that shapes the terrain itself. They create spaces for insects, fungi, and small mammals to live. They assist the slow release of nutrients that feed the next generation of plants. The landscape remains firm and resilient because the roots hold it together like a foundation made of living strength. Indigenous knowledge of rainforests includes cures modern science has not yet explained. Across rainforests around the world, indigenous healers have developed remedies through generations of careful observation and spiritual connection to the land their knowledge grows from. Listening to the forest's rhythms, watching how animals interact with plants, and learning through stories passed carefully from teacher to student. Some treatments use combinations of leaves, roots, fruits, and tree bark prepared in ways that concentrate healing properties. These medicines can reduce fever, soothe pain, calm the mind, or bring clarity to the senses. Many have been shared with researchers who continue to study their chemical composition, yet science still struggles to understand how certain mixtures work. Some remedies require preparation only during specific lunar cycles or seasons because their potency changes with shifts in rainfall, temperature, or even sunlight. To the healers, these details are not mysteries, but parts of a relationship between people and forest that has endured for centuries. Their knowledge is a vast library written in scent, taste, texture, and memory, and much of it remains known only within the communities that protected. Entire tribes have lived in the rainforest without ever being detected. Deep within remote regions, there are communities who have chosen to remain separate from outside contact. They navigate the forest with an ease that comes from lifelong familiarity, moving through trees and rivers with silent confidence. Their homes blend into the landscape so well that even trained explorers passing nearby may never realize they are close. These tribes hunt with tools crafted from local materials, fish in hidden streams, and cultivate small gardens in sunlit clearings. Their knowledge of the forest is intimate and expansive. They know the seasons of fruiting trees, the signs left by migrating animals, and the patterns of rainfall that shape their movements. Many outsiders learn of these groups only through brief glimpses or traces found along riverbanks. Yet these communities often thrive in harmony with the environment, guided by traditions older than recorded history. Their existence reminds the world that even in the modern age, vast regions remain untouched by outside influence, and entire cultures continue to live in ways shaped entirely by the forest. Some rainforest trails are older than the cities of Europe. Long before large civilizations formed stone streets or towering buildings, forest dwellers created pathways through dense vegetation. These trails followed the movements of animals, the flow of rivers, and the fruiting cycles of trees. Over centuries, the trails became established routes used for trade, seasonal migration, and spiritual journeys. Layers of footsteps packed the soil into firm, quiet paths that still exist today. Some follow ridges shaped by ancient geological processes. Others wind towards sacred groves, waterfalls, or hidden valleys known only to local communities. In many places, the forest has grown over sections of these paths, yet the underlying structure remains intact. Researchers have traced certain routes that predate many major human cities by thousands of years. Walking these trails is like stepping into a timeline that stretches far beyond written records. They serve as natural highways through the jungle, guiding both humans and animals through landscapes shaped by time, memory, and the enduring presence of the rainforest. There are trees considered sacred and never touched by human hands. Within many rainforest cultures, certain trees hold deep spiritual significance. Some are believed to house protective spirits, others are seen as ancestral guardians that watch over the land. These trees often stand taller or older than those surrounding them, their roots spreading wide and deep into ancient soil communities. Approach them with reverence, offering prayer songs or small gifts placed at their base. No one climbs them, harvests their leaves, or cuts their bark, these trees are allowed to live their full natural lifespan, growing without interference. Birds nest within their branches. Epiphytes form delicate gardens on their trunks. Animals rest in their shade during the heat of the day. Even when branches fall, the wood is left where it lands. Such trees become living monuments to respect and connection between people and forest. Their presence embodies a relationship in which nature is not merely a resource, but a partner, teacher, and elder. Rainforest peoples use plants that mimic animal calls to hunt. In certain regions, hunters carry leaves or stems that produce specific sounds when blown, rubbed, or tapped. These plants create tones that resemble the calls of birds, frogs, or small mammals. By imitating these sounds, hunters attract curious animals or calm them long enough to approach quietly. The technique requires careful practice because each species responds to unique patterns of rhythm and pitch. Some plants imitate alarm calls that cause animals to pause in confusion. Others mimic the soft notes of companionship or mating. The hunters must understand not only the plant sound, but also the behavior and mood of the target species. This method reflects a deep understanding of the forest's acoustic language, where every creature communicates through subtle tones. The plants used for these calls become tools that bridge human skill with natural resonance. This practice highlights the creativity and adaptability of rainforest cultures whose survival depends on attunement to the environment. Some rainforest languages contain words for birds no scientist has ever documented. Within remote communities, people often name species long before researchers discover them. Many rainforest languages include terms that describe birds known only through local experience. These words carry information about the bird's behavior, its preferred habitat, its song, and even the season when it appears. Some names distinguish between subtle variations in plumage or flight patterns that researchers have not yet recorded. When linguists gather vocabulary lists, they sometimes find references to birds that have never been captured in photographs or scientific surveys. These names reveal relationships built over generations of careful observation. They show that the forest has many residents still hidden from formal study. The languages serve as living maps of biodiversity, preserving knowledge of species that may be rare, shy, or active only during certain hours. This linguistic richness adds depth to the understanding of culture and ecology, reminding us that science and tradition both hold pieces of the world's story. Forest dwellers can identify hundreds of plants by smell alone. In many rainforest cultures, children learn from an early age to recognize plants. Through scent, they inhale gently to detect the sharp aroma of medicinal leaves, the earthy fragrance of edible roots, or the faint sweetness of flowers that attract specific pollinators. Over time, they develop a finely tuned sense of smell capable of distinguishing slight differences between closely related species. Some can discern whether a plant is young or old, healthy or stressed, based solely on the scent carried by its leaves or bark. This skill extends into the night, when light is scarce and scent becomes a primary guide. The forest becomes a library of fragrances that reveal location, season, weather, and opportunity. This sensory knowledge allows forest dwellers to forage safely, prepare remedies with accuracy, and navigate landscapes often too dense to rely on sight alone. Their ability demonstrates the remarkable adaptability of human perception when shaped by life within the rainforest. Ceremonial dyes in rainforest cultures come from creatures that can kill if mishandled. Certain insects, frogs, or caterpillars produce powerful compounds that tribes use to create vibrant pigments for rituals, body art, and sacred objects. These creatures often secrete toxins as a natural defense against predators. When handled with respect and skill, their secretions can be transformed into brilliant reds, deep blues, or luminous yellows. The process requires careful knowledge passed through specific family lines. Gatherers may know the exact time of year when the creatures yield the safest and strongest pigments. They understand how to combine the material with plant extracts to neutralize harmful effects. The resulting dyes hold cultural meaning tied to spiritual protection, identity, or celebration. Their creation reflects both reverence for the creatures and an understanding of the delicate balance between danger and beauty. To outsiders, these dyes seem miraculous. To the communities who make them, they are expressions of connection to powerful beings who share the forest. Some traditional rainforest medicines are made using sunlight, sap, and silence. In certain healing traditions, remedies are created with deliberate calm and ceremony. The healer collects fresh sap from specific trees at dawn. When its properties are believed to be strongest, the sap is placed in bowls of carved wood that absorbs subtle qualities from the material. The mixture is then set in filtered sunlight for a precise amount of time. Some medicines require the complete absence of speech during preparation because sound is thought to disturb their formation. Others require soft humming that aligns the healer with the forest's energy. The final remedy may be applied to the skin, sipped slowly, or used as a compress warmed over gentle fire. Modern analysis sometimes reveals complex chemical interactions that occur when sap meets light, yet the traditional method remains rooted in respect for timing, intention, and atmosphere. These medicines are as much spiritual expressions as they are physical treatments. Generations have mapped the rainforest not with paper, but with memory and song. Before written maps existed, rainforest communities navigated through stories sung across generations. These songs often describe the shapes of mountains, the bends of rivers, the calls of birds that mark certain locations, and the presence of sacred groves hidden within the dense canopy. Children learned the landscape through rhythm, melody, and repetition until the forest became a mental map woven with sound. Paths were remembered through verses describing the taste of specific fruits found along the way or the sound of water at particular bends. Even subtle differences in wind or soil were encoded in the songs. Travelers relied on these musical maps to cross great distances, carrying knowledge that adapted with each generation as the forest changed. These song maps reflect deep intimacy between people and place, showing that geography can be preserved not only through lines on paper, but also through memory shaped by voice and breath. Some rainforest insects can alter the weather by releasing aerosols within the rainforest canopy. Live insects that contribute to atmospheric processes in subtle yet powerful ways as they feed, move, and release natural chemicals into the air. They emit microscopic particles that serve as seeds around which moisture can gather. These aerosols drift upward through warm air currents created by the forest itself. When they reach cooler layers of the atmosphere, water vapor condenses upon them and forms clouds. Over time, these clouds may grow dense enough to release rain that falls back onto the forest. In this way, even the smallest creatures influence the hydrological cycles that sustain the ecosystem. Their activities add texture and complexity to the rainforest, breathing, blending with the emissions of plants, fungi, and soil microbes. Insects play an active role in shaping conditions that affect their own survival, demonstrating that weather is not solely the product of wind and sun, but also the combined actions of countless living beings. The rainforest sky becomes a living reflection of activity occurring at ground-level. Tree roots can send chemical warnings to other trees miles away. Beneath the forest floor stretches a vast network of interconnected roots woven together through soil, fungi, and moisture. When one tree experiences stress due to pest, drought, or injury, it releases chemical signals into this network. These signals travel along root pathways and fungal threads until they reach other trees. Upon receiving the message, neighboring trees begin to alter their internal chemistry by producing protective compounds or adjusting their water use. Some even change the structure of their leaves to reduce vulnerability. This communication can extend across great distances because the underground web links entire sections of the forest. The process occurs silently, without any visible sign on the surface, yet it demonstrates a hidden cooperation within the ecosystem. Trees behave not as isolated individuals, but as members of a community that shares information essential for survival. Their warnings reveal a sophisticated awareness of danger and an ability to respond as a unified presence. Certain trees hum ultrasonic frequencies to signal stress deep inside their trunks. Trees contain networks of vessels that move water from roots to leaves. When a tree experiences drought or damage, the tension within these vessels changes. These shifts create vibrations that travel through the wood as sound waves too high for human ears to detect. Sensitive instruments reveal that stressed trees emit continuous ultrasonic hums that differ from the sounds of healthy ones. Other organisms, including insects or mammals with acute hearing, may detect these vibrations and respond accordingly. Some pests are drawn to the hum, while others avoid it. The forest becomes a quiet orchestra of signals that reflect the changing conditions of its members. Although humans cannot hear this communication, it forms an integral part of the rainforest's hidden dialogue. Each hum marks a moment in which the tree reaches outward into the world, expressing its need through the language of vibration. There are lianas that move towards sound vibrations in the canopy. Certain climbing plants exhibit sensitivity to vibrations in their surroundings. As animals move through the canopy or as wind shifts branches, distinct patterns of motion ripple through the air and through the wood of nearby trees. These vibrations help guide the growth of lianas. Instead of growing randomly, the vines slowly adjust their direction, bending toward the source of consistent vibration. This allows them to locate sturdy trunks that offer reliable support for climbing. The process unfolds gradually with each new growth tip responding to the faint messages carried by sound. This behavior reveals a surprising sensory capacity within plants, showing that they interact with their environment through more than light and chemical cues. The movement of a liana toward vibration demonstrates the responsiveness of rainforest vegetation to the dynamic activity of animals, weather, and neighboring trees. It is a quiet pursuit that transforms the canopy into a web of intertwined lives. Rainforests produce scents that travel across oceans on the wind. Every leaf, flower, and fruit within the rainforest emits natural compounds that rise into the air. These scents combine into a complex signature unique to each region. Once airborne, the molecules enter vast atmospheric currents that carry them far beyond the boundaries of the forest. Over days or weeks, they drift across islands, coastlines, and entire oceans. In some cases, these airborne chemicals seed cloud formation or influence rainfall patterns in distant lands. They also bring hints of the forest's presence to places that may never see its trees. Certain compounds break down as they travel, while others remain intact, continuing their journey across the globe. The rainforest becomes part of a planetary cycle of scent, in which the chemistry of one region influences the air of another. These fragrances reveal that forests broadcast their identity through the sky, participating in interactions that span continents. Some leaves turn away from the sun when danger approaches. In moments of threat, certain plants respond to subtle cues in their environment by adjusting the angle of their leaves. When insects begin to gather or when nearby plants release signals of stress, these leaves rotate slightly or fold inward. This reduces exposure to herbivores and makes the plant less vulnerable to damage. The movement may also limit evaporation, allowing the plant to conserve water in times of distress. These changes occur through shifts in internal pressure within specialized cells that act like tiny hinges. The forest is filled with such movements. During moments of tension, although invisible from afar, they reveal a world in which even quiet plants respond quickly to information around them. Their ability to sense danger and act upon it demonstrates a level of awareness rooted in evolution. Each leaf movement shows the rainforest's ability to protect itself in ways both subtle and profound. Certain rainforest plants use magnetic fields to orient their growth within their cells. Some plants possess structures that respond to the magnetic forces of the earth. These structures help guide growth toward favorable directions, ensuring that roots spread efficiently into the soil while stems rise towards stable light. Magnetic awareness allows the plant to maintain consistent orientation even when wind, rain, or canopy shifts alter the visual cues within the forest. This capacity becomes especially valuable in dense environments where sunlight arrives in scattered fragments rather than clear beams. Plants with this sensitivity grow in a manner that maximizes stability and efficiency. Researchers studying this phenomenon believe it may help certain species survive in challenging conditions where other forms of navigation are unreliable. The rainforest contains countless examples of complex behavior hidden within the biology of its plants, and magnetic sensitivity is one of the most remarkable of these subtle adaptations. Light filters through rainforest mist in patterns unique to each location. When sunlight enters the forest at a particular angle, it encounters moisture suspended in the air. This mist scatters the light into rays that drift across leaves, vines, and branches. The patterns formed depend on the composition of the air, the density of the canopy, the temperature of the morning, and the altitude of the land. No two places create identical displays. In some regions, beams of warm gold spill down like tapestries, touched by movement. In others, cool white ribbons form delicate columns that illuminate floating pollen. These patterns change moment to moment as wind alters the mist and as trees sway with gentle pulses of air. Animals respond to these shifting lights by adjusting their activity. Birds begin foraging when the first rays brighten their perch. Insects rise into beams that warm their wings. The forest becomes a cathedral of moving light, shaped by the unique conditions of each location. Some organisms in the rainforest have never been photographed alive. There are species so rare, so elusive, or so remote that scientists know of their existence only through traces such as molted skin footprints or brief glimpses recorded decades ago. Some appear in local stories, but remain absent from scientific documentation. Others are known from museum specimens collected long before cameras became common. These organisms navigate hidden regions of the forest where human presence is rare. They may live high within the canopy or deep within labyrinths of roots. Their avoidance of detection reflects both their rarity and the density of the rainforest, where shadows and layers conceal even large creatures. Researchers continue to search for them using sound recorders, scent traps, and infrared equipment. Each attempt reflects the hope of glimpsing beings that have remained private for generations. The rainforest still holds mysteries that defy our expectation that everything can be seen or measured. There may be species in the rainforest whose existence we still cannot imagine. The rainforest contains so many microhabitats, so many layers of soil, foliage, water, and air that entire lineages may remain hidden from science. Some could dwell in canopy zones rarely reached by humans. Others might thrive within soil structures or rotting logs where light never enters. There may be organisms with behavior, shapes, or life cycles beyond anything currently known. Each expedition in unexplored regions reveals new forms of fungi, insects, or tiny vertebrates that reshape our understanding of biodiversity. These discoveries hint at a deeper truth for every species described. Many more remain undetected. The rainforest is not a completed catalog, but an unfolding realm of possibilities. Within its depths lie beings whose existence challenges imagination. Their discovery may expand our view of what life can be. Until then, they remain part of the forest's quiet mystery. As the last echoes of distant birds fade and the forest settles into its soft night rhythm, let your thoughts settle with it. You have wandered through a world shaped by mist and roots, by creatures seen and unseen, by ancient stories written in leaves and flowing water. Let that sense of wonder stay with you as you rest, a gentle reminder that there are still places on Earth where mystery breathes in every direction. If you enjoy these peaceful journeys, I invite you to subscribe, or share a thought below. Your presence helps others find their way here, one sleepy soul at a time. You're always welcome to return, whether to explore new worlds or simply to rest in the quiet company of science. But for now, allow your breathing to slow. Let your body grow heavy and let gentle rhythm of the rainforest carry you to sleep. Good night.